The viewer and listener that the term Acemannan may be a unusual or a new term to be comprehended. In the early 1980s, a company in Texas raised $20 million to develop a research project to develop a new FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, pharmaceutical drug from the active ingredient from the aloe leaf gel. And it's a long story to how we got there as a research team, but the active ingredient was found to be acetylated mannose among the various sugar chains that are made by the plant. And the short term for this acetylated mannose is Aloe Ace Mannan. So this is a overview as well as an introduction, a pretty heavy overview to let the individual know where we're going and what the health benefits are of this compound, which are actually hard to believe. And so we'll go to the first slide. Now, when I present lectures on this Aloe Ace Mannan, if it's a religious group, I call it God's plan for normal health and healing. But if it's a secular crowd, I call it personal preventive and interventional health management. And the importance of this is it reduces health costs, which is very important because the United States has the highest healthcare cost of any nation on the earth, and especially all the members of the United Nations. The last figures I have is about $10,300 per citizen per year and rapidly increasing. And when they do surveys of the quality of life, when I say they, I'm talking about the World Health Organization. The United States comes in the last time 35th for quality of life and health status, but number one in cost. So this is an important topic because Aloe Ace Mannan is not only beneficial to health, but it's safe beyond compare based on multiple extended safety studies done with the FDA in the effort to make it a new pharmaceutical drug. And the company had initially 10 and finally 12 academic institutions doing research on contract to answer all the questions the FDA requires for new drug applications. So that's where we found out that it was effective, and it works through the gene. It's in harmony with the design of life that is found in the chromosomes. And most importantly, we've eventually found out after it was kicked out of the FDA because it was absolutely no toxicity, which is pharmaceutical heresy, that it's no comparison for how economical adding Aloe Ace Mannan formulation to the diet. And it's far beyond any health experts ever dreamed could be possible. And one should, I've got there, it's warning that this is disruptive technology because it is greatly opposed by the pharmaceutical industry. It's a government-controlled agency of the FDA, and all of the sickness industry, the American Medical Association, the NIH, the hospital corporations. And if disruptive technology doesn't immediately grab you, I ask you how many big black and white TV sets have you seen for ads lately for sale, or typewriters, or 35 millimeter cameras and film, and places in drugstores where you can give almost instantaneous development of your films. It's all gone away because of new technology that's come on and replaced it. And that's what more comprehensive nutrition does when you're supporting the engineering and design of life. It's coded in the chromosomes that control cellular synthesis using nutrient molecules assembled in cellular synthesis to make the molecules or compounds that carry out the biochemistry and physiology of life. I have to state that nutritional support does not treat or cure disease or abnormal condition because it's a federal law under the Dietary Supplement Act that only an FDA-approved drug can claim or represent to treat, cure, or ameliorate or correct an abnormal health condition. With more comprehensive nutrition, all we do is just improve the support of nutrient molecules and turn it over to the genes that control cellular synthesis. And everything that happens is at the molecule or ion level, which is too small to even detect with electron microscope. And a human intervention or participation can't enter this microcosmos. So all we do is just support nutrition and turn it over to the microcosmos of the area of the genes. Now, who am I to be speaking to you? Well, my university years were 1954 to 58 with a double major in chemistry and biology at Southwestern University at Georgetown, Texas. I also had a minor in history. But more important, and in this slide I made it blue, is for 2 years during the summer, I was a chemical extern to Dow Chemical Company, Beasley Research Center at Freeport, Texas. And the importance of this is that we took liquids and gases, and with pressure, high temperature, catalysts, and rare earth metals to modify the reaction, we hooked these gases and liquids together to make long chains, which were called polymers. P-O-L-Y means poly. These molecules are hooked together to make plastics with different characteristics. The importance of that is that every cell in the human body is essentially an ultra micro little factory that's a polymerization factory that is far more complex and can make far more compounds than anything human beings have ever made a factory. I've finished medical school in 1962. In the first 2 years, I worked on a PhD in cellular physiology, which is essentially how do cells work, not only plant, but animal cells, which humans are part of. And I didn't realize that in the junior and senior year, you don't have time to eat, go to the bathroom, or sleep. And I never was able to complete that effort, but it was instructionally important. I went through 2 pathology residencies and was introduced to the medical examiner's discipline at Parkland Memorial Hospital. And in the military for 2 years, I was at the Regional Pathology Laboratory at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. Then for about 30 years, I was chief of pathology here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Center, centered at Grand Prairie, which was originally Great Southwest Hospital, but it grew into a 300-bed hospital that became the Dallas-Fort Worth Medical Center. And I started in 1985 to be a medical consultant to Carrington Laboratories, which raised $20 million with the goal of making a new FDA drug from the active ingredient from aloe, which had been in folk medicine active topically and orally for at least 5,000 years. It can be traced, and no one knew why it was beneficial. And from 1994 to 2004, I was medical director for an international dietary supplement company, because that's what we found this active ingredient, Aloe Ace was, that had no toxicity and was utilized in cellular synthesis. And Mannotech Incorporated was that international company. And then it had a pass it forward thing that every time a product was ordered, some was given to a missionary field, which is called Manna Relief Ministries, which I was a medical director for. And we provided this to standing orphanages in 81 countries, about 29 of them, which were in Africa, which was a real broadening experience in what this Acemannan can do. And so now I have 60 years of academic activity and 39 years in this year 2024 being focused on the active ingredient from the aloe, which is Acemannan. Now, I was limited in my education, but here is about multiple institutions where there were MDs and PhDs and dentists that are beyond university training. And I worked with all of these people, and I didn't learn everything they knew, but I learned from them about more and more about cellular physiology and about the benefits of this to health. And I would particularly note that down there it says the Research Foundation, San Antonio, Dr. Gil Cates. He was also a consultant to the International Dietary Supplement Company that I was related with, and we did research together and published papers. And so I learned from all of these people, and we could take hours going through what was done in cooperation with these, where I was taught by others to add to my education. Now, health is extremely important. I will never forget in high school that what was considered one of the richest men in the world was advertising on the radio for first made milk of a newborn mother with a newborn infant, because of all the nutrition that is in the colostrum, just to try to get another breath in his aging sickness, because he had all the money in the world, but here he was offering untold money to something to try to add another heartbeat or another breath as he faced his last days. And also in the New Testament, in Little John 3, it states, I pray that you may prosper in good health, even as your soul prospers. So in the dimension of religion, the status of individuals' dimension called the soul, that they point out that this physical good health, that you should prosper in that too. And in the preamble to the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 94, which established the dietary supplement industry, one of the first paragraph is called the preamble, which is just a statement of why the government agencies, the Congress, Senate, and the House, even considered this legislation that for short is called DSHEA, the capital letters from the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. But in this preamble, it states, medicine science has shown that optimal nutrition is essential for good health, preventive disease, and to restore health. right quick, you might say, what else would you want? Well, I can tell you what you'd want. You'd like for that to be part of the law, but it is just the preamble and it is not the legislation or the law, because in the law, in the labeling section, it states overtly, and I paraphrase it, that only an FDA-approved pharmaceutical drug can represent or claim to treat, cure, mitigate, or correct an abnormal health condition. That's a tribute to the political influence of the sickness industry led by the pharmaceutical industry. But the truth of the matter is that it's incredible powerful to support the engineering and design of life as is coded in the chromosomes that control cellular synthesis of bioactive compounds that carry out the biochemistry and physiology of life. And you should know that the chromosomes or the genes in the 23 pairs or 46 chromosomes are all programs for good or normal health. And they try to use cellular synthesis to move it to that. And I pointed out a few moments ago that this is an economic problem, that we have the highest healthcare costs in all nations of the world. And yet the benefits or the results of this, we only rate as number 35th in the last survey that the World Health Organization did. And one of the reasons for this is that in some of your third world countries, you do not eat unless you plant, cultivate, and harvest food, and you don't eat it until it's ripe. And that allows the genes in the plant to put the nutrients in there that your DNA calls for in cellular synthesis to make bioactive molecules to move to the healthy and normal position of the metabolism of the human body. And so I want to share what I'm telling you with individuals, because this is so financially supportive, particularly in a time of inflation. This is the most economical approach to management of health. And the thing that I was surprised to see that many individuals have never really helped somebody else, but the feeling of worthiness of sharing this message with others through the dietary supplement company that I was a consultant for brings joy and happiness to the life of those that are carrying this information to others. And again, this gets back to a biblical truth that tells you to love your neighbor as yourself, and rewarding other people is a personal blessing that can be beyond any earthly material value. And people experiencing this really get a new burst of joy out of life. Now, to get apart, try to get this general idea, is that a few blocks from where I am sitting and talking to you is a General Motors assembly plant. And by rail car and trucks, they bring in parts. And they go into the assembly line where they have the design of various vehicles. And if they have all the parts, out comes a car or a truck that looks right and it works. I might add that ever so often somebody has a glitch in the supply chain, and they don't have enough brakes, or they have some steering problems, and they have to shut down this assembly plant till they bring them in. And so they have parts deficiency that disrupts the usual activity. Well, over to the right, each little cell in the human body is like a little factory, and it has an assembly line in it. And we're told that there are about 30,000 genes, and depending on which genes are activated, that's what this little micro factory makes on the assembly line that's present in every cell. And the violet looking area in each cell is the nucleus. And that's where the chromosomes or the plans are, just like in the assembly line over at the General Motors thing. There's information in the chains of chromosomes that tell how to hook the nutrient molecules together. And so the blood comes through, pumped into the cells from the arterioles that bring in nutrients that come from what we eat. And then the little assembly line makes bioactive compounds, and it leaves through the veins that go to the various cells in the body and organs that require these nutrients, or hormones, or small molecules that you call cytokines, which are cell activators. And so that's our cells kind of work like that, but we can only see this little micro factory under the microscope, which is provided there. Well, that's the area in which we're talking about. Now, every great artist starts with primary colors of the red, yellow, and blue, and you can mix these in different amounts and make all the rainbow of all colors. Well, this started as a middle of the road scientific standard pursuit, and it's turned into a spiritual journey, because there is no question, as you get into the depth of this and all the intricacies of the programming, for example, that's in DNA, that there is no way a bunch of molecules with heat and energy from the sun got excited and got organized in the manner of, that is so detailed about the biochemistry and physiology of life. And there are primary substances that are involved in this. And this is the table of elements that they have found not only on Earth, but in space. And it starts from the simplest there at the far left upper corner of hydrogen, which has one electron and a nucleus, and it's atomic number 1. And it goes all the way up to, say, uranium 235, that has multiple electrons and numerous molecules that balance those electrons in the center. But each one of these little squares is a expression of stable energy that is found in this element of these electrons running around the things. And the reason we mention this is because Einstein was the one that came up with the equation that energy, or E, equals the mass times the speed of light squared. And if you doubt that there is energy in these molecules, I will show you under the microscope in a future segment of what H2O, or water, one oxygen molecule with two hydrogen molecules, the energy that is there. And of course, when you've seen on TV the hydrogen bomb explosion, that's where an amount of mass, no more than as big as a refrigerator or a washing machine in the home, all of a sudden the energy is released, and it causes all this damage and heat of the atomic bomb. But this is a statement of the different molecules that are used in the life process and cellular synthesis. Fact is, there is nothing in the human body that is not represented by a combination of these elements in this composition of matter thing. Now, there's something about this talking about energy is very important because all the energy that we get comes from light from the sun, which is on the left, shows it hitting a prism, and it bends the different frequencies of light. And lo and behold, you see a rainbow to the right, and you see red all the way down to the blue. And right there between the green and the blue is a very narrow band that is the source of energy for everything on Earth. Because this little band of energy in the blue-green area hits the chemical chlorophyll, which is in plants, and there may be single cell plants in the ocean and in water. We call them algae, or it may be a blade of grass or a leaf of a tree. And we'll go through that. All the energy on Earth starts with this energy that comes from the sun to Earth, and then is transferred over and over again from one creature to another. Now, the principal building blocks for the life starts with a carbon chain, which was on that thing, on that composition of matter thing. And you can see that it has 12 electrons, and it has 6 neutrons and 6 protons in the center. And these, it's like a little cloud around this, these electrons float around. And then you have the hydrogen that was the simplest one. It has only 1 electron. And then we have nitrogen, which has 14 electrons, and that's a different stable component or quanta of energy. And then we have oxygen. But when we had that artist palette, this is the equivalent of the primary colors on that artist palette, that all of these are combined to make the core structure, atomic structure of amino acids, where we'll have a chain of carbons that have primarily nitrogen and hydrogen amino groups added to it. And then we have long carbon chains of fatty acids. And then we have carbohydrates, which are the sugars or starches. And that's primarily a chain of carbon that primarily has oxygen and hydrogen added onto this chain. But I try to relate it to something you're aware of, that the hydrogen is much like the red in the artist palette. The carbon is like the blue, the nitrogen is like the yellow, and the oxygen is like white. And all of these things are combined to give all the molecules that make up life, just like the artist mixes the primary colors to make all the colors of the rainbow. Now, very interesting is that this frequency of blue-green light that hits the chloroplast, it makes it possible for the plant cells and the chloroplast to take carbon from carbon dioxide, which is a falsehood that we are dealing with politically in this current era, because carbon dioxide is a very important waste product that we breathe out. And in fermentation and in decay of things, carbon dioxide is made. And in photosynthesis, the carbon and the CO2 is hooked together in little chains, and a little bit of the energy from the wavelength that was captured by the chloroplast is put in that bond between each carbon. And for example, we have as first example there a amino acid that we have the structure to the left, And the cysteine is an amino acid that also has a SH or sulfur and a hydrogen group attached to it. And it's an important amino acid to make proteins, one of which is glutathione. In fact, the cysteine is very critical because it's present in cruciferous vegetables only, which have a bite due to that sulfur. In the fatty acids, the most simple fatty acid is butyric acid, which we show it there with 4 carbons and 2 oxygens added, and it goes on up to long chains of fatty acids. And then in the monosaccharides, most of them are hexose sugars, are 6 carbons, but that little space between each carbon shows a bond there, which has a little bit of energy stored in it. And this makes carbohydrates. And it all comes from the sun. And interestingly enough, in each cell, you have a structure called a mitochondria, which essentially reverses what happens in photosynthesis, that the mitochondria breaks that little bond and transfers some of that energy that's there to a adenosine triphosphate molecule, which is the source of energy to run the cells for metabolism and even moving our muscles. But it has a little bit of energy that originally came from the sun that was captured in a plant, and then an animal ate the plant and eventually made proteins and fatty acids and the carbohydrates in the human. And it's amazing how all of this works together for the engineering and design of life on our planet.